Apparently, the video started by itself. I wasn't quite prepared for the video. I was setting up a live particular things on my digital cellular telephone. But as fate would have it, I was led to start early. And because of that, I realize I'm talking to an empty room. The truth is, I think that that's a really good place to start. This is also a podcast, 15-minute free thinking, as well as on my YouTube channel. Hello, my name is Joshua. I go by Carpo, and I have a bit of an obsession with sharing all of my viewpoints with the rest of the world. So, therefore, I've had my YouTube channel for about 13 years or so and have made podcasts for a couple of years. So, I'm uploading on both platforms today. And my intention is not to specifically go into any type of conspiracy theories or anything about hidden knowledge, but rather, um, as the video started early and I wasn't prepared, I hadn't really brought any notes or anything. So I think that might be the best way to approach this because these topics don't really have any way for there's no way for me to discuss or talk about certain viewpoints I have or like my feelings about certain things when it comes to, I guess the spiritual or the ether, the realm that is, always in dispute. Either we're, fully created by chance here or there's some pattern to life. Whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, I'm not here to tell you what to believe or do I care. It I mean, I do care because I do believe that there's so much argument and debate about what's true and what's not out there that many conspiracies take form and we end up with, you know, these discussions about Freemasons being monsters um, or any other secret society. And I kind of wanted to make this video discuss kind of title it something around the Rosa, the Rosy Cross, the Rosicrucians, and I kind of wanted to talk about that, especially the idea that many many so-called scholars and experts through history have believed that it's a real organization, and in some form it may be, but it's more of individuals finding their own truth and being led to certain discoveries. And I don't know how to define that, but I should back up for a minute and get to the point about secret societies, if you want to use that term secret. And the question I wanted to answer is why are they so secretive? And why all they, through history, have you heard about these, people hiding away from the public to do, believe whatever they wanted to believe, right? It it just didn't jive with the church. And the truth is, almost all secret societies are only secretive because the church would just burn you at the stake. And it just a fact if they found out that you had a different faction that didn't believe what was properly, approved by the Pope, eh, you would be, at the very least, locked away in prison, but usually executed. And today, for us living as Americans, where I live, to imagine that you could be locked away in prison just because you believe something different religious wise. I mean, there's a reason we have a constitution and we know that we can say certain things. I can sit here and tell you how I feel about each and every religion, and nobody can do anything about it. And that's beautiful. But that's also led us to a very dark place where many people, they just they suspect everything. There's a very paranoid sect of society. And right now, it's always been this way. But today, it's so much worse. People who are paranoid about everything. They think the government's watching them. They think, they're worried that their car is going to break down. They're worried that they're going to have a fire. There's a lot of paranoia out there. And it's unfair to like blame the person, but society has kind of led us to this. We worry because many things happen to us, and therefore we want to blame another group for our problems. So we'll blame the government, we'll blame, the rich, we'll blame, anybody else but ourselves, right? And sometimes it's true. But here's the thing, as an American, I believe that if you're a fully capable, functional human, you can go out and figure out how to make money or do what you need to do to live your lifestyle you want. You just have to be smart about how you spend your money, and a lot of people aren't. And I'm not in a debate about, the poverty in America. It's a huge problem. Wage is not keeping up with inflation. I'm well aware of all this, but the point I want to make is that we always want to blame another group for our problems. And I know that I've got off track from quote secret societies, but there's a point to this. Regardless of what a lot of people would have you believe, most people care about one another. And there has been a debate for a long time. I've heard from people saying, well, without religion, we wouldn't have, any morals. And that's nonsense, in my opinion. If a person says, well, what would keep us from going out and just murdering and raping? I'd say, well, that says more about you than it says about an atheist. But I think that human nature has some flaws, let's say, as far as social skills, but we are getting better. I think we're improving. There's a new interaction going on in this world where we can have any information at our fingertips. So, in the past, when there was something called a secret society, you're well aware that today these things are shared everywhere. People have done research up the yin yang trying to figure out, you know, which groups did what, all the way back to, biblical times, and how these different groups moved across the desert. They're not always right. They don't always have the full picture. But when you get scripts out of a cave and you start reading them, it's pretty amazing the kind of things that come up. And you find that, look, I've listened to the, many disgustings from Thoth and Hermes, which a lot of people believe they're both Jesus, the same archetype. And I'm not here to dispute whether Jesus was a figure in the time that he was claimed to be. That's not for me to decide. I'm not going to deny Jesus because I've had an experience, believe it or not, that Jesus, uh, basically, I had an experience directly with Jesus in my presence in a state of mind that I could never explain. I could never express. It's what a lot of people would call like an initiation. It wasn't just Jesus. There are many gods in my belief. And I know people might think that's crazy. That's fine. I don't care. But I don't want to go into the details of what I think. A lot of my discussions and research in my past has been related to esoteric and comparative religion, esoteric discussions, and I've listened to it, hundreds of hours of Manly P. Hall and of course even Alan Watts, doing there's everything from Zen to the occult, and it's all the same. And it also ties into the Christ consciousness and with Shiva and Brahma and all the different cultural, kind of hot discussions in the alternative community. And I want to just say, first of all, the whole spiritual thing really took off in the 2000s, became ridiculous. People just pick up on these key terms from other religions and think they understand it. Look, I, I, I've had many experiences in my life that were very divine, but until recently, haven't had an experience that moved me as much as this. Basically, within the last week or so, I've had this life changing experience that was all internal when I was in a meditative state and convinced me 100% that we're puny to worry about this life. It's a full calm and understanding about why we're here, where we come from, without having to question anything. And I know that sounds crazy, and that's fine. But I've had basically a mystical experience beyond anything I've experienced. And I'm kind of playing it cool because in the back of my mind, oh God, my candle's going crazy over here. It was just this little stick candle. But in the back of my mind, I've had, you know, a lot of thoughts and research going on over the years that are have pertained to comparative religion, trying to understand, the basic concepts within the Kabbalion or simple, occult or alchemical books. And I thought that you could do enough research to reach an understanding of it. And that's part of it. But there's also a direct experience, which it's some of these kind of like spiritual nut jobs, in my opinion, they'll say things like you get a spiritual download. That's a term. I understand that, and it is true. I don't feel like those folks have gotten the message, if that's true, because the message I got laid out the full yin yang, the full understanding, and I gave me the impression that these aren't things that you can just share or just be like, hey, this is what this means. Um, Sounds silly, I know, but so back to secret societies, the whole idea of Freemasons, for example, this is a perfect example. Actually, I have this stack of books over here. There's one about science. There's one about DMT. Oh, one of my favorite, the Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And this one I've been reading lately, which is the Lexicon of Freemasonry. And it's a big ass book, and it's a full alphabetical listing of all the different terms. And I have like my grandfather's apron out here and cap. He was a 32nd degree Mason. In fact, I'm wearing two of his rings because today I was wearing both of my grandpa's rings. And so it has the compass, and the square on it. And you understand what that means in time, right? It seems pretty obvious. The compass is more complicated. It's about geometry, but it's also about planning. And there are plenty of videos talking about these things, already. But the idea is, as a Freemason, you're not supposed to share certain things, right? So people get very suspicious about it. It comes down to people not being able to grasp the deeper metaphors. It is not because people are dumb. It's because some people aren't ready. They don't have the mindset prepared for those things. So secret societies, like, if you want to call them secret, the reason they went underground was because the church would burn you at the stake. And uh, we ended up with, these kind of rumors about certain groups of people. And I'm not going to say that there weren't sacrifices and weird shit going on in the past, because that's just how history was. There were groups that worshiped the bull, then there were groups that sacrificed the bull just because others worshiped it. There was a huge conflict of belief systems in the past, and all of them ended up, producing these secret groups of people who wanted to be able to share information freely at their meetings, so they would have secret hand gestures, and signs, things like that. But it's not secret anymore because historians have been able to dig a lot of this out. But certain things that, you know, like the Knights Templar and who the Illuminati really was. They had, I think it was Adam Weishaupt, who was like the founder of the Illuminati, I believe, or at least one of the most prominent, members. And it was just in the 1700s, for like a 10-year period, that the Illuminati as a group existed. But there, of course, if a group of people obtain information, they pass this information on. So let's move back in time to the time of the quote prophets, or the times when people were scribing for others. When, let's say, when people trusted those who said that they can talk to God. I guess I've never really thought about it that way, and that's why I love making videos. The only difference between then and today, is that today, if somebody says, I've talked to God and he's given me these messages and rules, people just ignore him and think he's crazy. He goes to the psych ward. A couple thousand years ago, if you could, if you had messages, a lot of people would understand where you're coming from. They would fall in line. And this is where people think, well, religion was just a way to fool people. But the truth is, that was never the intention. It wasn't. It was to inform people. It got taken advantage of to fool people. But what happened with, say, the various churches is a travesty, in my opinion. The way that God was used as leverage for money. The Catholic Church, many Christian churches, same thing. The Catholic Church, especially, was guilty of giving indulgences. Indulgences were a way for them to basically, you could pay the church a certain amount of money and it forgave a sin. It's a get out of hell free card. But if you've looked at any mythology in ancient history, in any belief system, you'll see that hell is not a permanent place where you just burn forever. You know, there's several layers of hell. There's one guy said you have to go through 7 layers of hell to get to heaven. And I'm gonna say that this is a metaphor, of course, but I understand that, and it's, you know if you have been through a lot of pain and crazy experiences in your life, you might have one that's really hard to define, and a lot of people will ignore it. But you shouldn't ignore it because we're not here as, you know, these fucking idiot robots that just work and die. There is something more important to why we're here. But we've lost that understanding and that agreement because we're trying to define what God is. I'm more of a, people would call me a polytheist, but it's not that. I believe there are gods, but not, I believe that everything is God also. There's the, let's say the grand architect, creator. Um, there's a certain point where you just can't not believe it, right? I don't know. But it's not like other people believe. Um, we all have our own viewpoints. So, I'm sorry I've ranted on a little bit about that religious shit, but I had a weird experience the other day that it's really hard to throw off. And definitely, I never press anything I believe. So it's more of a discussion from my heart about how I feel. But I'm going to get into the secret society shit. And, it's fascinating with this lexicon of Freemasonry. I guess I could talk about that, but I think this one is actually more prominent. The Secret Teachings of All Ages. It's a thick book, and it's so many different secrets, and that have been passed down. But the thing I've realized, and really the main point of the video, isn't about secret societies. It's these 3 books right here by Dale Pendle. There's Pharmacognosis, Pharmacopoeia, and Pharmacodynamics. And they're these beautifully illustrated books on basically each different plant and natural drug substance, how they interact with the brain, and the ally or spirit of the plant or experience. And this is kind of where I wanted to go with this. Being a live cast, I can talk about psychedelics a bit. I know that by this time, most people have already clicked off if they're not, the younger people. I don't want to inspire anybody to do psychedelics. I want people to be able to find it on their own. And when I say that, I mean, there are many different forms, LSD, psilocybin, DMT, or taking ayahuasca, which is also DMT, even taking iboga if a person has a strong addiction. But Special K had a special place in my heart that led me to a place after meditative consistency and practice. Drugs can get you to a certain point, and every church through history has used drugs. It's only today that we've kind of cleaned that up. We've become much more Puritan, and government laws, didn't allow people to smoke pot or take mushrooms. And these are things that people have been doing for thousands of years. So We're getting back to that now, and I feel very vindicated that, talking about psychedelics and cannabis when I was, back in the 90s when I was in high school and shit, being like, man, why is this shit illegal? And arguing with this dude in this treatment center I was forced to go to. I said, it'll be legal in a couple of years. He's like, never. And I was like, mark my words. And a couple of years later, boom, everything changes in time if the people demand it. So society is very difficult to change things in. And this takes me back to the societies, the quote secret societies like Freemasons. They do a lot of good for their community. They actually contribute a lot to their local communities. And I know some folks might think they control the weather and are destroying the planet. The thing is, as with most groups, there's always going to be bad players. But man, overall, I'll ask myself, like, what am I doing for the world, right? You see these people who really care, really contribute, and you start to wonder, what do they know that I don't? Like, why are they doing this? It's not just for self gratification, it's a deeper purpose, and one that you can only kind of feel the reason why and understand that. And that's something I've always felt, but it's been reinforced. So my experience I had was, it was just reinforcing many of the things I thought I knew, but always suspected in the bottom of my heart, like, this life is important. There's a purpose here. For me specifically, I've got to find what, my path is. And I did. And I guess here I am. I guess part of it is still making YouTube videos, talking to y'all. So thank you for watching. And once again, thanks to my patrons. And I'm going to, I have like 4 videos that I've made that are just for patrons that I just put links to on my Patreon page for those, even $1. And I'm going to post those in a little while. And also, I wanted to mention my 15-minute free thinking podcast that goes on here on the microphone. I I've been listening to a lot of podcasts vocally, and I want to start making some podcasts where, especially, people are able to listen on the go and download them. I love that, being able to listen on my own time. Some of the podcasts I've listened to have been so synchronous and so right on the nose of what I'm thinking at the moment. It's scary. Like, it's not just the algorithm, but this is why I posted the other day, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's like everything is coming out of the woodwork. Shit that I've read about years ago, because I've been really into the occult and alchemical symbolism and religion for a long time. And I just felt like, how could a human ever get it? And I understand enough now to know that it's worth pursuing further. That alchemy is not just a fool's errand, right? And I'm not talking about trying to make literal gold, uh, you know. So, as I'm making this video, I like to answer my subscribers, or at least, acknowledge them. So I'm going to grab my phone here and read through the comments. Let's see, where'd they go? Oh, there's not too many. Good, because I'm bad at keeping up with them. C.S. Lewis essay, The Inner Ring, says spam this. That's great. That's really funny. Okay, so I had this thought the other night when I was laying in bed, and I was thinking about C.S. Lewis and this book, Mere Christianity, that I read years ago. And I went out to find it on my shelf, and it was gone. And I looked for it everywhere, and so I think I may have given it to somebody, but it's just funny you would bring up that author. Good evening from England, brother. Yes, good evening to you, Tombstone. It's good to see you, my friend. Hello, Chris. Um, Spam says, of all the passions for the inner ring, making a man who's not. He had a very bad man do very bad things. You know, this is fascinating, my friend. Hello, the doctor as well. I wonder why people do bad shit. Hello, Jimmy Buffett and the doctor and spam. Hello to everybody. So here's the thing. I want to understand why people get corrupted, and I want to put this in a way that doesn't sound woo woo, but it's not. It's going to have to. Do Could people really get possessed by not just like demons, but just bad energy, bad spirits? What makes a person so corrupt? Because so many people who do bad shit do a lot of bad shit. Now, here's the thing. I want to make this clear. I consider myself a good person, a kind person. I don't steal from people. I don't, you know, I did some dumb shit when I was a kid, broke into a couple of abandoned buildings, did whatever kids do. Detached a train and derailed it. My friend did it, wasn't me. We did some weird shit, but we were young and we learned. And now I feel responsible for everything I do. I have three boys, that are almost 12, 15, and almost 30. My oldest is almost 30, and I've been through the parenting phase, and I understand what it means to be, trying to do the right thing. What, I don't know. What do we want to do with this world? You know what I'm saying? How can we stop fighting about the dumbest shit? I can't believe the wars that are going on. I almost want to scream out loud sometimes with the stupidity of people. But I try not to get too involved, and I rarely get emotionally involved unless I see people dying, and it seems to be the case. But there's also part of me that understands why. There's this ongoing battle between good and evil, if you will. And I don't mean that in a way that's, you know, specifically biblical or anything. In fact, I think the Bible is just a little late and a collection of stories that started a couple hundred years later. Much value to all the stories independently, but it really bothers me when people think the Bible is the only answer and that's the only book they need. Like, you've got to read, my friend. You've got to expand your horizons, get the Bhagavad Gita, uh, even listen to. I've been reading the Book of Enoch. I think I'm almost finished with it. It's an audio book, um, which originally was the first book of the Bible, but was removed by the Council of Nicaea, I believe, and I don't know if that was the 500s or the 1500s, but the Bible's been revised several times, and I think if a person can read all these different texts, try to absorb them, a person would do really well to research Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice greatest, the basically the exact metaphor and the same archetype as Jesus. And as I said earlier, I've had my own experience with the entity, the energy of Jesus, and I don't deny that people can have amazing experiences and go to places that you can't define, places that are more real than this world. So I don't know if any of you have ever had a out of body experience, but I hadn't. I never had, and I got to the point where I was in a place where I said I really don't want to stay here. I was afraid that I would stay there, and I asked to come back to my body, and I could feel myself and look down, descending in this darkness back to my body. And it was on a high dose of, of ketamine, self administered. And this is something I've been carefully practicing over months. I don't recommend it for anyone else. At first, when I started trying it, it was overwhelming and made me dizzy, and it's not for everyone. But here's the thing, I do believe that the brain has channels that need to be opened in order for a communication with higher realm. And for my whole youth and, adult life, I've been fascinated with psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin, DMT. When I first got a hold of DMT, it just blew my mind. I got a whole bunch and I just kept smoking it. I couldn't stop, man. I was just like, woohoo, this shit is amazing. Don't recommend that though for anybody. There's A, it's too strong. B, you can't assimilate the experience. I'm not saying people shouldn't try it if they're adults, but um, you know, the first time I ever tried it, I was like in my early 20s, and somebody brought some home and we smoked it, and I wasn't warned, it was like how strong or what it was. And I just remember we woke up or came to, or what I remember, we were sitting in the window looking out, thinking the cops were coming because we were like so out of it. We ended up on the second story. The thing is, all of these substances, to have a deep experience, you have to do this. You have to lay down and you have to have headphones on a soft bed or in a not a bath because I don't want anybody to drown, but in a place where you have the least weight on your body and it's quiet and you put on headphones with You'll Love Me Later. Go to Spotify and put on Debussy, Dubussyy, and just put on the playlist of Debussy's, best or whatever, and just let it go. And the piano seems to have a certain effect on the mind that is hard to describe, but it, especially listening to older, orchestras and classical music that was written a long time ago, which has a message in it that is, I'm not going to say that the people who created it necessarily knew what that message was, but that the energy of the universe is carried on to people. There are certain people who were inspired by nature, and to define that is very difficult. I'm not going to try, I just know that there is a direction that people are leading to, and it's kind of like a slash free will determinism thing, I guess. We have both, but um, many different viewpoints on God and truth. So, you know, I think that the number one problem we have is that people want others to believe what they believe. And that's difficult. I see there's some more comments here, so I'm going to flip back because I love y'all and I want to make sure to say hello. Oh, Gary Melmoth, hello from Canada. Benji Banks, glad to see the channel growing. Me too, my friend. Thank you. I'd love it if my channel could grow. Oso Verde, good to see you, my friend. The coffee and cigarettes paradox. That's funny. Wooden Bell, good to see you, my friend. Check out the Apocalypse of Yajna Valkya. All right, I will. Thank you. Nicotiana Rustica, nice. That's good shit, dude. I got love tobacco. I have some growing out back. I've been lazy this year because I've had a lot going on as far as my growing and my crop. Here's the thing with tobacco, once you've grown it, the pods just start bursting out all over the back porch. And you're just like, wow, you'll see the sprouts and you'll recognize them every year because there's so many of them. I'll take some seed pods and just throw the seeds everywhere. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I'm thinking about taking them down to like this forest area right on the border where I can just like lay them out and just let wild tobacco grow and people wouldn't even know. And I don't know. Would that be bad? It's an invasive species, but it's tobacco. I'm curious. I don't know. Oso says, I think I'm a small percentage of people that DMT doesn't seem to affect them. That would definitely depend on how many times you've tried it. Yeah, it's built into your system, so it's hard to know. I had my wife was the same way, and a couple of, I don't know, if you're a female, that would make sense. A lot of females don't seem to have the same effect as males. We definitely have different, the way we react to it. Jackass Whiskey, it's good to see you, friend. You're a 32nd degree Mason. There aren't any secrets there. Exactly. Yeah, I'm getting off topic. Exactly. And that was kind of the point I wanted to make. There aren't any secrets. You get a fancy ring or two, you get an apron, you've been raised on a certain day, you get your cap if you want to. I guess things have changed a lot. But I'm not going to downplay it because I think it's awesome, a lot of the good things that they do. But I feel like I heard somebody say, that they've just lost the plot, you know. Um, this is whether or not you believe that these societies really had any understanding or deeper understanding that they were keeping it secret. So this brings me back to the main point here. Why would you have an understanding where you'd communicated with God or understood the universe or whatever it might be? Let's just say you have to speculate if it's quote secret society, you wouldn't know, right? So these people have a secret. Why are they keeping it in a secret? Well, it doesn't make sense that they would want to not share something that would benefit society unless it was dangerous. So let's just say they had, instructions on how to build a nuke. That's just, a joke, of course, but they wouldn't want to share it. They'd have to decide what kind of knowledge is worth disseminating. And the fact is, if humans understood that, I feel like a lot of people claim to believe that this life is just temporary, but a lot of the people who say that are scared to death of dying. So, in other words, a lot of religious people have an extreme fear of dying, whereas a lot don't as well. But this is the same with, of course, I don't know the average with atheists or agnostics or any of that. I grew up agnostic, and I told myself, I'm never going to believe in God just because somebody tells me to. I should say a specific God. There has always been a belief in my mind that the universe is conscious of us in some way, that it reacts to us, and the planet as well. I didn't know how to define it. I was afraid to define it because I didn't want to be that asshole who says, "Oh, I'm one with everything and I totally understand the universe." No, fuck that. I want to understand the universe, but only to the degree a human should do so. And I feel like we have limits as to what we can know. And I wondered that if I was humbled about what I wanted and I didn't act like an asshole and I tried to be kind to people and I've always been a cool, a kind dude. I'm not a dick, but I can be. I'll still flip you off if you fuck me over in traffic. So fuck you, man. In all seriousness, I try to be the best person I can even when nobody's looking. But at the same time, I realize that people do want to be seen for doing good things. I understand that. So it's okay as long as you're doing good things. So if you're a volunteer and you help people out and you want to tell others about it, that's great. It might inspire somebody else to do it. And that's wonderful. But helping people out is not exclusive to anybody. It's not exclusive to the secret societies or the churches or anything. The average person just wants to help others out. This is our default mode network. We want to help other people and help ourselves. And we know that helping other people helps ourselves. So why are we such assholes about, you know, sharing with other people? I'm going to pause this for a minute. I need to go in and grab a little snack. I'm kind of hungry and I want to be able to finish this without fading. It's been a really long day at work. I've been working for like 9 days straight, 10 days at my wife's work, or at my wife's house, her mother in law's house, because she's got like, you know, we were trying to sell the house as is, but it's like they said it's unlivable. So now we have to put in floors and trim and all this. So I had to take like the last week off of work. Anyway, you don't want to hear my sob story. I'll be right back. Oh, with the greatest secret from the Rosicrucians, you'll see. found the biscuits. Pantry. Oh, it's cupcakes too? Oh, God. Oh, I'll be back, I swear. I know. I just got to finish because I'm live right now and it sucks. Oh, here's the. Oh my God. Want this pen, right? Yep. Yep. Good shit. All right. I did find the biscuits, but I found a Hostess cupcake, and they're disgusting. They're really bad for you, but they're good. So now I can continue the podcast portion because I didn't want to leave dead air. On the video, you can see I'm not here. So I'm going to finish this cupcake I got and get back to giving you the secret, the deepest secret I promised. Here's a secret. If you live by your heart, you can't go wrong. And it's my belief that if a person truly lives within what their heart tells them, it's very rare that a person will live a bad life. They give a shit about one another. People care. And they may find God in their own way. They may find, and it's hard to talk about because I want people to find God, but I don't want them to fucking be dogmatic about it and hate one another. And I feel like, for example, a lot of extreme Christians have pushed people away from even talking about the word Christ or God. And a lot of extreme Muslims, right? Everybody kind of labels Muslims as extremists. And I guess the Mormons are the only ones that got away. You haven't heard of many violent Mormons. There might be something there, right? But really, it's usually about community and family. And I don't support what is happening, in the name of different belief systems anywhere. If there's wars and, it has to do with belief, I think it's silly, but I also know it's part of human nature and it makes me sad. It does make me sad, but I look back through history and it seems like, it's kind of a given as to just how people are. Cliffhanger. Jackass Whiskey says, I want to buy you lunch tomorrow. Hopefully you'll get something real greasy. I appreciate it, my friend. Right when I read Jackass Whiskey's comment there, the camera for the video was at 44:44. I personally believe, let me say that I don't believe in coincidences. I don't really know how to explain synchronicity. Carl Jung is a great place to start since he coined the term, but it's not a deja vu. It's just a person, I don't know. Do you trust your brain? Do you trust the experiences you have? Have you ever had an experience that was real, more real than the waking life? Now, I've had lucid dreams in the past. This didn't quite qualify. They're very unique in their own right, but if you've ever been able to control your dreams, it's pretty wild. It really is. And but controlling hallucinations or being in kind of an alternate universe is a completely different experience and can be extremely, frightening for some people and dangerous even for people who aren't ready. And that's what, when people talk about being an initiate, you know, see, I'm stumbling over everything today because I can't define some of the experiences I've had. But let me just say, it was a connect to the Christ consciousness. It was an understanding with Christ and with other gods. I mean, Artemis, and you know, when people believe strongly in something, it might have some root, right? But I've really been doing a lot of research on Dionysus in the last couple days because that name kept coming up, and in random unrelated podcasts, Dionysus was, you know, believed to perhaps be also Jesus, also Hermes Trismegistus, and also um, God, many different gods, right? That all have the same kind of definition. My question to anybody who's an extreme Christian is why wouldn't you allow somebody else who has a very similar belief but names it differently to like pray alongside you and have the same, connection to one another? In other words, the world is divided by for some weird reason that the basic, religious groups can't just get along. To me, it's pretty wild that even the church leaders who have to be aware of this. I mean, let me put it this way: anyone in my belief, anyone who's had a true experience or connection with God knows that it doesn't matter which way you believe it or what you name it. And that's, I guess, all I can say about that, you know. But these are the things that people try to hold sacred in the secret societies. And that's, I guess, my main point, this roundabout way of talking about spirituality, to say this is what Freemasons are doing. This is what Rosicrucianism is about. And there was never a formal group of Rosicrucians. It's an idea. When you understand, you understand. The Rosy Cross is almost an initiation, but you're never done. You're never finished. And when you start talking about it, then it sounds arrogant. Like, ooh, these people have this knowledge, the secrets. No, they realize they don't have the knowledge or the secrets. You get a vague interpretation of what the universe wants, but you have to continuously practice your whole life. You have to do more and more research. It's about evolving through degrees, not just Freemasonry, but just in life. I reached a certain plateau where I was allowed a vision of something that I probably don't feel like I even deserve to see. And I'll never be able to define it or explain it, but let's just say that I'm dead set on understanding how to serve God in my own capacity now. Something that I just wanted to know. I'm almost 50. I felt I deserved it. It sounds silly, right? But I've never been an atheist. I've always just said, God, come on, where are you at? And I finally got my answer in a way that I never expected, and in such full understanding that I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm just going to live it. And many of the secret society kind of ideas come up when you see these archetypes and understand things, you know, as I mentioned, the different symbols, square, compass, right? The two pillars. I saw a picture earlier of two pillars with a sheet between them, and I was like, okay, you finally start to understand these things, and it's a process that you have to earn, and I think it's beautiful. You're not going to even if you're told the answers, you don't understand the problem. That's like giving people an answer to a math equation they don't know how to do. If You have to know how you got there, and we can start to share these things with one another. We can start to set a world where people can talk about God without being ostracized. You know what I mean? But don't be a douchebag trying to convince other people that your God is better than their God. My God. Holy shit. Jesus Christ. Fuck. God damn it. Sorry. You should be grateful that other people believe in the same values you do. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. If you say it's all about having morals and values, then talk to the person. Ask them why they have the certain values they do. Because some people are total assholes. You know what I mean? But a lot of people, regardless of what they believe, are extremely kind, and it's very hard to fault people who believe strongly what they believe. I mean, we all have weird beliefs, right? I'm gonna plug in my phone because I'm using a shitty cell phone to record on. Uh, I saw there was 22 people, and then I plugged it in. It was 22%. Remember when I said 44, 44? So there's a certain degree of we want to see what we want to see, but there's also kind of a universal nudge towards things being a little more complicated than that. That there's an unfolding pattern. It's very hard to understand. And so the best we can do is live our lives and live as naturally and kindly as we can with one another. Hang out with your neighbor, try to be nice, meet your friends. It's weird. I had this idea to just text my friend the other night that I hadn't seen in like a year, and he told me he was doing really bad. I was like, I said, the universe told me to text you or call you. There are some weird things that happen to us where we're just like communicating with one another at just the right time and kind of giving each other props or helping each other out. That it seems that we're here on a mission together, but our mission has been tainted by this wall of bullshit politics and consumerism that's been pulled over our eyes. And it's sad, but we have to fight against the urge to just go out and buy shit and ignore the world. We have to help one another. We have to make some effort to make the world a better place, whatever that might entail. It could be something very simple, making an art piece, whatever you're good at, but just don't give up. Don't give up. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm eating a cracker. Inspirational speech while I eat a cookie, right? Hey, I'm real. I'm as real as they come, motherfucker. In fact, in some of my videos, I'll probably end up being a lot more real than I've ever been because I've realized that I don't even know what real is. I've realized, no, that we have different personalities, of course, depending on what we're doing in the world, who we're talking to, and everyone's different capacities, and it's pretty interesting. But you can't deny it. You can't fight against it. And I've made an effort on YouTube not to be that way, and on my podcast, I talk to people just like I talk to my friend. So I was like, I want to just communicate the way I talk to anybody else, and that's what I do. So here I am, dude. I'm gonna stand up for just a minute, and I'm gonna grab another shot of whiskey before I'm done, and I'll be back for another 5 minutes. I'll read the rest of the comments, um, take a banger here, go through my usual goodbyes and all that stuff. I'll pause the audio version here. I guess I could pause that version, but you're still there, so I'm just gonna leave it. So my podcaster made on this shitty microphone. It's a Tascam. I want to get a new one, but they're I don't know. They're only like $150, but I don't have one, and I thought, well, when enough people get on Patreon and give me $1 a month, maybe I can go buy a new one. It's a joke. It's a joke. But I don't. I'm going to actually start selling some really shitty merch. I'm going to have it shipped in from Bangladesh and make sure that all the threads come out of it because everybody needs more merch. All right, stand by. Stand by and I'll return. Okay. Did all the posers go home? I'm kidding. It's okay to be a poser. I'm back. Put my glasses on. I don't want to look through the comments because I love hearing y'all. Growing tobacco, man. Jimmy says I tried it once, but it wasn't like mushrooms. Of course, yes. Any substance you use to transcend is going to take a little time. Hey, Rob. Hello, hot retarded chicks. Who else is in here? Cherawak. That's integrity. Thank you, my friend. Jackass says the best work is done anonymously. Jackass, this is a great point. Something I wanted to talk about. Whoops, get my camera straight here. You are absolutely correct. The best work is definitely done anonymously. And then it got me to the point where I wondered, how are we going to, how are we going to deal with the future in this country, in this world, if people aren't informed on what's important from one another? and the fear that we have to share, quote, knowledge or understanding, it's how much damage could a person do if they're not prepared for it? Perhaps a lot. I don't know. But I feel like people need to get. Here's the thing I want to push people and bump people in the right direction and say, do a little research this way. And I think that studying the occult, the hidden, studying different, religions and trying to understand how we got here, that our ancestors weren't just idiots who believed in false gods, but rather there was a little more going on that you might think. People weren't dumb, people were very wise, and they understood something we don't seem to understand today. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm figuring it out. And that's the thing, it's a lifelong journey. So, um, cliffhanger. Where was I? Oh, yep, I was on the wrong side of the comments things. Hello, Tom. And I'm a cynic. I get comfort in believing. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a cynic too, man. The good news is that if you repent, you are saved. Yeah, I've heard that, and I wonder, I feel like, I guess I have repented, just I haven't done it to somebody else or a pastor or in a church. I've done my own thing and just I've always repented. I feel like I guess repenting to me just means, have you felt guilty for the things you've done wrong? You know what I mean? But I do believe that you should ask a higher power. I've always been mixed on the feeling of whether or not everything is conscious, but it's mono deal. Which gods pay attention to us, right? And I think that it's safer to follow Pascal's wager at this point. Just to be safe. You know what I'm saying? People need to know what sin is in order not to sin. Exactly. And that's the thing. Even some of the things that people think are sins aren't sins. It's just, Carpo, are you drinking Buffalo Trace? No, but that's funny you say that. You probably saw me drinking it last time, maybe, or maybe not. But today, I'm drinking. Um, um, why can't I remember the name of it? It's Pendleton. Pendleton is a place out here, and it's Pendleton whiskey, military edition. I specifically bought military edition, and it had like a green label. And I looked at the label, and it said supporting the military. And I'll be honest, my first thought was, war, because you know how I'm a liberal, right? But I put it back, and then I looked around for a minute, and there were better deals. And then I thought, you know what? I do appreciate the fucking soldiers in this country. I've said, because I know I only say that because I've said this shit in the past. I've been like, I don't, war is dumb. People shouldn't go to war. But my father was in the Vietnam. My grandfather fought in World War II. Both of them. I understand that being in the military is a camaraderie thing and a connection. And I never mean to belittle, soldiers or anyone else. I respect it. I think that they are some of the most upstanding citizens, honestly. But I also know that when they go to war, they come back with PTSD, and it's pretty sad. And that's what happened to my dad. And I think he died of cancer when he was 42 from Agent Orange, probably from being over there. But hey, what do? Don't want to get into that one. That could be rough. So no, my friend, Jackass Whiskey, I'm not drinking Buffalo Trace. I am drinking Pendleton Military Edition. Military issue. Yeah, suicide's a tough one. I believe that. Dov, all right. Hey, Dov, good to see you. I don't recognize the name, but I appreciate it. And let me say, if anybody's out there who's a new subscriber, just don't, feel free to comment. This is I want to say it's a safe space in the sense that nobody's gonna, there's so many channels and places where people are just assholes to one another, and I won't tolerate that shit. You know, I just don't put up with it. It's a bad vibe. If I'm in a workspace, if I'm at home, it doesn't matter. I don't fight with my wife or my kids. If I have something to say, I say it, right? And it's over. Oh, my phone's 15%. Why isn't it charging? Oh, there we go. I have a really shitty cord and a shitty phone, so I'm trying to keep it charged. Tom Addo, I appreciate that, my friend. Um, Spam says some people don't have the ability to feel that guilt. It's saddening and hard to pity them. Forgiveness is probably one of the favorite lessons from the Christian model. Absolutely. Dude, look, I have several copies of the Bible and the Mormon Bible and New and Old Testament, and I've got, as I mentioned earlier, all this Freemason shit and secret teachings of all ages, blah blah blah. And that was the point I wanted to make, was not that look, I've read books, but rather you don't need the books, but you do need to do research. You do need to do your homework, and that's not reading as much as it is, and it involves learning because you have to know what to look out for, right? So you're basically reading kind of a rough draft of like what have other people experienced and what's the world like out there for other people in their own mentality, and then you try to apply that to your own life and you say, well, what happens if I think positive? What is alchemy? What happens if I stop being an asshole to people? What happens if I tomorrow decide I'm not going to yell at anybody, right? Or I'm not going to fight with my husband slash wife. I'm not going to. You could even just say, I'm going to wake up and enjoy the drive to work in the traffic like I have to do every day for 2 hours. It's part of your experience as a human to be stuck in the situation that you're in, and you can change it, but we're usually too uncomfortable to change the situation we have. We could go be a surf bum. We could move to another country or another place, but we get comfortable with where we're at, and we just want to be the best citizen we can, and that's a good thing. We want to be part of a community and just be normal humans, but sometimes that's just not enough for us. How did I get on the subject of moving into cities and shit and being a modern, happy suburban human? I don't even remember now. I don't remember. Dov, I stumbled upon your channel a few months ago. I'm glad I did. Thanks. I'm glad you did too. Chair walk. The horn ring thing showed it. Jackass says forgiveness is important. I remember forgiveness was a huge one there, and I remember saying that's at least one thing I agree with. Um, I had some people steal from me when I was in my teen years, stealing jewelry, weed. Who knows what they took? They took a gun that was like my grandfather's from World War II that he'd taken. It was 32 pistol he'd taken off a dead German soldier. One friend stole it, and then I was like, "Fuck, asshole." And then he returned it with like a box of ammo and a new handle grip. He apologized. We ended up being friends again. Then another dude stole it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I never saw it again. It's kind of bullshit, but um, thieves, thieves are everywhere. What do you do? But I still love them all. I still love them all. 2 hours. What's 2 hours? Once you feel forgive others, you can feel worthy of forgiveness. Exactly. That's funny because I I try to relate to people who feel like they should be forgiven because I don't feel like I've done shit. Oh, the commute. Oh, so Verde says. So here's the commute. Okay, if I get down early enough, if I leave early enough and get through Portland to Beaverton, it's about 45 minutes to work and about an hour home. 55 minutes to an hour home. Sometimes an hour and 10 minutes. So 55 to like 75 minutes. And it's fucking horrendous. But here's the thing, I don't know. I don't know how I fucking deal with it, man. It's bullshit. I hate it. My wife was just bitching about traffic, and she was like, "I'm sorry that I didn't." She's because usually she'd be, she's like, "Well, a lot of people drive in traffic," and she's like, "I know that I said that it's not a big deal, but holy shit, she's like, I get it. I have empathy." I was like, "Good, because traffic fucking sucks. I hate traffic, and that's almost 2 hours. But here's the thing: I've had these epiphanies in my like some of my deep journeys in my mind, even to work. It's like I see traffic and these crazy traffic jams, but then I end up seeing people at my work, and I see the connection, the web between all of us, and how we're helping other people to build up their houses, to improve their lives, making connections with new people, all the way back to my own family and how we interact with our own neighborhood, and just trying to be humans that I want to be more like a flower in this world, like really be able to, there's fertilizer all around, but you're going to be spreading some seeds, you're going to be, picking up from the environment. We are, it's amazing being a human, isn't it? You know what I mean? I know this is probably kind of a rambling podcast, but I have to do it because when it comes from the heart, it's hard to deny. So, I want to talk about psychedelics for a minute, and that's what I'm going to end this video on. If anybody has questions about specific ones or situations about psychedelics, let me know. Leave a comment. But I've been through some deep experiences that really led me to question reality, like splitting a half ounce of mushrooms with a friend of mine, really strong ones. And it's I took some the other day, but only a couple, like a gram or so. I need to go into like a 5 gram mode, like the Terrence McKenna recommend, 5 grams in a dark room. I haven't done that, but as I said, my ketamine experiences have been in a dark room, and they've been rather intense. But the thing is, I don't want to talk about how many times that it took me here, but let's just say if you've never looked into anything about Special K, look into the guy with the dolphins. That's what I'll just say. The guy with the dolphins. Um, if you cross word college or not, um, yeah, uh, I can't part on his name, but I was totally looking into how he beyond the dolphin things he did. He was trying ketamine and having these wild, feeling like he was having a connection to the divine, and he was kind of trying to have psychic connections with the dolphins. And people think it's crazy, but the truth is, what isn't crazy in this world? Magic is probably real. Voodoo is probably real. I've always believed that intention is where it comes from. So you should have good intentions. And I've always made an I don't lie even when I can, right? I mean, that's at least my thing. Even if you could fool somebody, why would you risk being, dishonest and having that come back on you when you could feel good about it? It's not even about an afterlife or being punished from anybody, like God. It's knowing inside when we fuck people over, we feel like shit every time. If you don't, you're like somebody said earlier here in the comments, one of those people, who doesn't have any emotion. And cheers to that, because, it would suck to be one of those guys with absolutely no like emotional reaction to being an asshole or getting screwed over. or rather screwing other people over. All right, so I'm going to read I love that. So, any advanced technology appears as magic to those who don't understand it. Yeah, I've heard that one a few times, and completely agree because most people don't really. Okay, let's talk about AI, right? I mean, that's something I've been wanting to talk about, but it's up to y'all. But where are we going with that shit, right? I mean, what it, I'm fascinated with how these things interact with kind of our deep knowledge base and understanding. For example, what if I were to say, you know, uh, to keep on this secret societies thing, right? Could say, tell me everything that is known or thought of about Freemasons, and AI will spit out a list, and you can do all your research without even having to, and people are starting to use it that way. People are starting to use it for like everything about a specific word or language or all the memes relating to something. Like AI can do all of that, and that part of it is completely meaningless. You know what I'm saying? Like all the artistic things it can do, all the words it can write, that's fucking nothing. Nothing at all. When AI is put in charge of machines, it's fucking over, dude. I mean, if you have a wireless connection to a bipedal robot and it has connection to the internet, oh, dude, I can't even believe it. It's a weird time to be alive, but you'll have to run for hell. It's funny when people talk about like a zombie apocalypse. I'd be okay with that because I could just float across the river. They can't swim for shit, but robots, dude, putting on jetpacks and flying over there, I don't know. That might not be cool. So, my apologies. Kids shouldn't be around anyway. Um, I've been through the ringer in the last like I don't know 8 months or so, and so I'm trying to get back in the groove of making more podcasts and also more videos. But I also want to keep them kind of super quality since I spend so much time editing, as you can see, all these jump cuts and cutaways. I keep it pure for y'all. What can I say? Uh oh, got like a cupcake on me. Junk food. Jackass says, "I'm thinking of writing my will." Hey, not to laugh. Sorry. I did that like fucking 5 6 years ago, and but I didn't authenticate it. I just wrote it on paper, hand wrote it, signed it, put it in my safe, just in case, But I probably should too if I had anything worth anything. Honestly, I look around. I've got all my record collections and walking sticks that I want to finish and sell because I have an intention of a business to start. I have all these things that I wanted to do, and it's not necessarily the finances, that's part of it, but it's a matter of just trying to feel like I can actually do it because you've got to spend money on other shit, mortgage, rent. Um, Everything's expensive to start up, but anyway, that don't matter. That's not the point. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, the will. So yeah, I was like, what do I have worth putting on a will? Um, but then I thought, yeah, I'll do it anyway, and I wrote it out, but I didn't actually get it like approved or notarized or anything like that. But I think I think it's a good thing to do. I'll just say that the Chinese arts, the path is an inch wide and a mile deep. Interesting. Yes, that's That makes sense. Get it. Jackals suggest looking into a trust as well. Avoid probate. Check us. No sisters, no kid, no kids. Walking stick business sounds neat. I want to start making bamboo flutes. Yeah, dude, I've got like, I mean, oh, I got cut off for a minute. It must be the Illuminati cutting me off, because of all the deep knowledge I'm dropping. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna turn this away a little bit because it's too fucking bright. There we go. Kind of in the shadows now. So I'm going to head out pretty quick here. It's been an hour and a half, which is pretty crazy for a podcast for me. Hit the like button if you liked it and all that shit because, I guess it matters, but it doesn't really matter. Um, my channel is going to be. This isn't my usual kind of, I guess, you know, live cast. As I said, I had kind of a wild epiphany, and I I feel like I trust in the whole system more than I ever have. So I want to be able to share that with people without sounding like a fucking pompous asshole. So whenever I go out in nature, I always see these interconnectedness. I'll never forget when I was like 15, 16, and I was sitting there watching this flower and I saw it swirling and this bee in it, and the whole symbiosis just came into my mind, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, my whole life I've carried this fascination with how all of that really works. And there was a period where I kind of went to source, if you will. And I personally asked, I was using breathing techniques and I was sitting calmly with the right, I was using originally on Spotify. There is a playlist that is binaural beats, and I was using like the sleep, the delta, and sitting back quietly. And after say an hour or so, if that, you know, even sober, you can reach an interesting place where you're kind of in another world. And if you can go further than that, depending on what you use or your brain's capacity to actually absorb this information, because not everybody can tap into this without substances. Some people can. This is why they had celebrations, celebration of Dionysus, the same as Jesus, Hermes, yada yada. Why am I telling you all this bullshit? Because I think it's something that mostly men will seek out in their lives and try to understand. And that I just want to say it is worth it. It is worth it to keep seeking. It's when you hit a certain level, you don't get your degree from a temple, or a group of people to give you some ribbon or sash. When you get to that degree, you get it straight from source in a way that works for you. And that's what I guess the Rosicrucianism is, to come full circle here. Rosicrucians are, in a way, a group of people completely unconnected to one another a lot of the time that have found this truth, and don't have to prove anything to anybody. But at the same time, it's a lifetime of seeking. You're never done. It's like an initiation, right? Like it's like when Buddha, was under the Bodhi tree after all those years of being an ascetic, and then finally had enlightenment. Enlightenment was just the beginning. Then you figure out what the rest means. So you're not special. You're not better than anyone else in this life. And that is okay. think that's my rant for the day. I feel like I'm just about done, and it's been quite a while here for an hour and a half, and I appreciate y'all. The walking stick journey never ends. That's funny. A life trust can protect your property. Fortunately, my wife owns the house, so mom is in charge, and she I never had it under my name. We forgot to put it under my name too. Oh, too much power in the walking sticks. I should show you the walking sticks I made. I have like faces carved in them with like real jewels from Afghanistan that my friend brought back from the war, and they're one's a beryl, Beryl, and the other one's I think it's a yellow topaz. And this face I carved in it, and it's all lacquered up. It's in the bus though, and it's mounted. I have a school bus out in the front. Of course I do, right? So yeah, I appreciate you all. Um, I'm gonna go eat now because I just got all of a sudden hungry. So much love, namaste, blessings. Uh, I love you and love each other, and we'll see you soon. Be sure to check out the podcast version, 15-minute free thinking, or the YouTube channel, Carpo719. And I will see you all next time. I love you. Peace.